All right, 21.2, 21.3. Solid and hazardous wastes. How should we deal with solid waste? And why is reusing and recycling materials so importante? Let's see. All right, so dealing with waste. Yeah, let's read this cartoon. First, these people on the ship are looking at this iceberg, and it says the impact doesn't look too bad. And it says solid waste, this little tiny tip that you see. And underneath says overall environmental impact being so big, even though you don't see it but a little, right? You know, clever. Solid waste management. Trying to reduce the impact of waste without reducing the amount produced as a form of output pollution control. So remember, they always ask those questions about pollution prevention versus pollution cleanup. This would be pollution cleanup, aka output control. It's already out, so we got to clean it up now. Versus waste reduction. If we could reduce the waste, that would be less going into the environment, so it would be input control, and it is prevention. So waste is, less waste is produced and becomes viewed as a potential resource. More on that in a little bit. So there's three different classifications of consideration when dealing with solid waste. Primary consideration, which would be the best, maybe up to the side of primary, right? The best. Change processes to eliminate harmful chemicals, reduce packaging, and make products last longer. All right, so all of these things would be input control, right? Prevention, preventative methods to keep this waste from getting into the environment. Secondary, reuse. Reuse would, if you reuse a product, you wouldn't have to consume another one, so that would be input. Recycle and or repair. So recycle is doing something else with it once it's already there, so that's not input, it's output. Compost, right? Yeah, that's good stuff. And then the last one, these are things, the last thing you want to do, right? So once it's out there, you can treat the waste, incinerate the waste, bury the waste, or dilute it. So let's look here. The 3 R's, reduce, reuse, and recycle. You have to be able to know each one, whether or not it's input or output control. So reduce, if you reduce your consumption, you're reducing the amount that goes in. So it's input. Reuse, again, if you can take, and reuse some people get mixed up on. Like reuse would be, say, right, mason jars seem to be a pretty hit thing right now. People like them in their house for decorations and for cups. Say you buy something that comes in a mason jar, I don't know, pickled eggs, whatever, and you eat those pickled eggs, and then you use that jar, you clean it out, and it becomes a cup. That's a form of reuse. It doesn't have to be for the same purpose it originally intended. It's just being reused. That is a form of input pollution prevention. And then recycling is output. It's already out there. Instead of throwing it away, though, you're recycling it. Hopefully it can be made into a new product and then be used again. You can see this baby right here is using this measuring tape as food now. So that is a form of reuse. I'm just kidding. Alright, 2 types of recycling. Primary, or closed loop. Secondary. So primary is materials are recycled into the same product. So aluminum can becomes an aluminum can. Alright, and that is great because usually primary, these things can be used and recycled into the same product over and over again almost indefinitely. Right? So the product itself is not being degraded with each successive recycling event. Secondary recycling. Materials are converted into different products. This is really something called downcycling. All right. Here it says use tires into playground mulch. Eventually, that playground mulch is still going to end up in the environment or in a landfill. It's just taking a small stopover as mulch from tires, before it goes to landfill. Kind of like those. I use these pens because they're given to me. I'll use whatever pens I can find. I don't care. But it's the B2P, right? It's the bottle to pen pens, and they used to be a plastic bottle. Now they were made into a pen. Once that plastic was made into a bottle, right, and a certain number of times could be recycled. I think it's roughly like 15 times. Then it was heated up. Some things were added to it, and it was made into a pen. the overall quality of that plastic has now been degraded from that successive heating endeavor, right? And that pen is still going to end up in the landfill, or it's still going to end up being thrown away at some point. But it started off as a bottle, and then just took a break as a pen before it was thrown away. So primary is the best type of recycling. Secondary is okay. Alright, so types of recyclable waste. So we've got pre-consumer waste, generated during manufacturing, and it generates the most amount of waste. These two, know these. Post-consumer, generated by you using the product, right? And that makes sense. We know that there's so much more waste that is produced to make our product than when we actually consume it. Again, that case study that we looked at said that for 2 wedding bands, right, that weigh, what is it, I don't know, a few grams, right, produces 5.5 metric tons of waste. So if I decided to throw this away, this would be the post-consumer waste, just 2 of these little itty-bitty rings. The pre-consumer waste generated is 5.5 metric freaking tons. That's a crap load of rock and waste that's generated. So, yeah, you get the point. Alright, advantages of recycling. It saves energy, especially if you're talking about primary or closed-loop recycling. Recycling 1 glass bottle saves enough energy to light a bulb for 4 hours. What? That's crazy. And what they mean from that is the whole process of making glass. The getting of the obtaining of the silica, which is sand, right? The heating of it to liquefy it, and then making it into the actual glass bottle. Glass bottle is the most energy efficient beverage container on the market, if you were wondering. If you can, buy stuff in glass. Plus, glass doesn't leach plastic particles and BPA into the liquids or foods that it contains. So you should totally use glass, right? Especially to store your food. And you're gonna go home later, and you're gonna microwave your leftovers in a microwave in a plastic dish. Don't do it. Don't do it to yourself. Don't do it. Tell your parents to buy some glass Tupperware containers. Glass. Reduces mineral demand, reduces solid waste, saves landfill space, and recycling programs employ 1.1 million people in the United States of America. Disadvantages. It can cost more than just landfilling, right? Because it has to be separated, right? You want to put your plastics with your plastics, your metals with your metals, and all that sorting. It takes some time, energy, and that requires money. It competes with landfill operators and incinerator owners. There's the next section, I'll talk more on that, so I'll save that. And one of the leading reasons why people don't recycle is because it's inconvenient at home to decide what goes into my recycle bin, what goes into my trash can. Are you freaking kidding me? Like, it's the easiest thing to do in the world. You know what I mean? It's easier than wiping your butt, but you still poop. I mean, I don't even understand. It's inconvenient, so that's why I wrote Boohoo Cry Me River. And you probably can't see. Well, I'll shut the lights off. That's a picture of River from 2 years ago when he was crying. Look at that face. He's got the the marshmallow drop, and some kid stole one of his marshmallows, and I almost punched that little kid in his face. I'm just kidding, I didn't do that. But he was crying. So Cry Me River. Right? Inconvenient. Inconvenient, they say.